Welcome to the Crossover the Pond podcast, brought to you by 21 Media Productions and in association with Sports Social. He's Drew Lasker, I'm Josh Sexton, and this is episode 2 as we continue our NBA basketball journey, a short hezzy tween and stutter step away over here in the UK. Drew, how's your week been since we last spoke? Have you been enjoying what you've been seeing on the court in the NBA?
Man, it's been exciting, man. It's been some great basketball. I mean, the offense has just been crazy. The offensive explosion. The competition has been great. You know, there were 3 5-0 teams until I woke up this morning, and now we're left with one. And guess who that is? OKC. I'm having a ball, man. The NBA season is back. How about you?
Yeah, very much so as well. I feel like it's been a hot start to the season, really, in general. Like you mentioned, all those teams who'd gone 5-0. Some of the understated ones in there as well, ones who maybe weren't expecting. But we're going to come on to that a little bit later in the podcast, of course, because there was some bold predictions made last week, and let's just say some of us got a little bit closer than others. Drew, I'm not going to give away too many spoilers at the start of the episode, but some of us got a little bit closer than others. I wanted to start off this week, Drew, by talking about the NBA Cup. The NBA Cup was back in full effect towards the back end of last week, and I don't know about you, Drew, like seeing all those NBA Cup courts coming through, it kind of got me like excited for it, and I was starting to wonder whether like the NBA have really nailed the look and feel of this tournament with the courts now. There's obviously been a bit of back and forth between fans and discourse between fans about whether it should have had the Emirates sponsorship tied to it and all these things, but I think in terms of how it looks, how it feels, it certainly gives it a little bit of extra magic for me. It almost feels similar to the NBA Finals courts with the Larry O'Brien at centre court, which they're bringing back this season as well. So it feels like certainly in terms of that look and feel, the NBA are nailing this right now.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. It's there's more consistency to it. So if you look at all the courts, there is the championship trophy at half court, and then they all have it inside the key as well. I would say that they're almost there. There's a couple of courts that still like when it catches my eye, it makes me blink, but it's not as harsh as it was in year one. Year one, like it was just too much. They've calmed a lot of these courts down now, and it just gives you something to. It's a reminder because obviously Europeans, everyone over here is kind of used to cup competitions, but I know specifically here in the formerly known as BBL, now known as the SLB, when there was a cup of trophy competition, if you were coming in as a normal fan, you would never know. So I love what the NBA has done is that they changed the court to make you to remind you that this is something different. This is a competition. This is a cup competition. So I love that aspect of it. I actually went and looked it up. The New York Times actually went and posted their own top 30 court rankings. And so, we'll dig into that. But I would just say there's 3 specifically that I don't like, which is the Rockets, Toronto, and Atlanta. And the reason is because they're bright red, and a red court just does not do it for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I think that was the problem that you alluded to there last season as well, was people almost in terms of like visibility on the court. I remember it being a bit of a conversation around the All-Star game too. I don't know if that was last season or the season before, but players literally complaining about how like the courts were almost distracting during games and stuff like that. So Drew, I want to put your mind to the test here, and your 3 choices that are at the top of the list to the test, because you've given us your 3 that are at the bottom there. But what are you saying are your top 3 NBA Cup courts so far?
Well, ironically, it's not the popular teams. So my favorite court of them all is Portland. They have
Right?
it's a nice little gray, which looks easy on the eyes. It's actually ironically the color of the shirt that I'm wearing right now. So it's really inviting. It makes you want to look at it, and then the text at half court looks really great. And then also I love Detroit's. Theirs is blue. Theirs is blue, but it's like a kind of like a dark light blue. It's not like a royal blue. Again, it's really easy on the eyes. And then they got the DET in the middle and the beautiful bold text, which just pops. And then finally, I like Indiana's. Like Indiana, I love the border, the yellow border surrounding the court. and it just looks tidy. Like these three courses really stood out to me as I went and looked at the New York Times list because they had their own, but they had a picture of each course, so it was easy for me to navigate through it. And these are the three, when I looked at it, they just kind of attracted me in. Whereas when I looked at those three that I just mentioned that had the bright red, it threw me off. And funny enough, they had the Lakers at number 4, and the Lakers just does not do it for me. That bright yellow is just too much. It almost looks neon. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with Portland. Shout out to Portland. Shout out to Detroit, and then also the Indiana Pacers. So what about yours?
Yeah, interestingly, I've gone with different ones, so that's good. I think what I was basing mine off was like not too much text on the court, like the ones that had big text on the court. So you've referred to Indiana's there. I think like that can kind of be distracting because it's like almost something to like read as it's like playing underneath you. I like the ones with a bit of like insignia beneath them, and especially stuff that's like important to the city. So the first one I'm going to go with is New York, like having the New York skyline on there. I like that it's not like because the New York color scheme is quite colourful, but they've not gone overly colourful with it. It's the black border, it's the blue core, it's got the orange New York on it, and then it's got the skyline there. And I think it's just like quite understated, but quite cool as well. I really like that New York one. I've gone for one that I think might be slightly controversial in Utah. I think the Utah one really pops and not necessarily in a way that I think would be distracting. Like I think purple is not necessarily like a distracting colour in the way red is. It's it's when you think back to sort of like English class. I don't know if this was the same in the States as it was in here in England, but like red would be like signifying danger, whereas purple feels like a sort of calmer and more mellow colour. So hopefully that's one that can help out Utah over the course of the season. Again, like the sort of insignia in the background with the hills. Love the font of the Utah as well. I feel like the Jazz in general this season have really nailed the aesthetic of theirs. And then, very well, Drew Lasker, I'm a major homer, so I'm gonna have to go with
Of
the Clippers
course, come
court.
on,
You
come
you've
on.
mentioned the Detroit one, and you like the blue on that one, but it's that sort of deeper blue. The Clippers alongside Indiana have got that sort of deepest like navy one, the red around it. It's not dissimilar to the Clippers one last year. It's got the insignia of the badge in the background. I love that Los Angeles font. I've got it on the shirt right now, but I love that like I'm not sure what you call it, like almost like script kind of font that's got Los Angeles there. I went to see it last season, and it's like so nice in the arena. It makes the arena feel really warm. Like it's a hard feeling to describe really, but like seeing that NBA Cup court in person, and as I mentioned, it's very similar to last season. I think the only thing that's changed this season, which they've done on across all the courts, is having the trophy at like the in between the free throw lines and at centre court as well. So yeah, I really like the Clippers one. I'm not just going from the basis that it's the Homer one. I want to give a shout out as well, honourable mention to Miami, because I think Miami are most improved this season in terms of courts. Miami had a horrible NBA Cup court last season. They've really brought it back. They've got almost normal court colour, which is interesting. It feels very deliberate that they've gone with like the normal hardwood colour, and then that sort of deep sort of burgundy or maroon around the sides of it. But I want to sort of talk about the competitive element of it as well, Drew, because we can get too bogged down in look and feel and almost get distracted by what the product actually is and what's happening on the court. So the two winners we've got of the NBA Cup so far are the Bucks and Lakers. Both then flamed out in the first round of the playoffs after winning it in those respective years. But you think it's good that we're seeing teams winning it who aren't necessarily just the championship favourites too? I mean, OKC were the ones who lost to the Bucks in the finals of the NBA Cup last year, but it feels like they've incentivized it well enough for everybody with the prize money and contributions toward regular season records and stuff that everybody kind of wants a piece of this pie. It's not just the teams who are the best that are just steamrolling everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's give our fans some context. The reason why the NBA brought this into play is because historically, the NBA opening week was always a blockbuster hit, but then after that, it was a little bit of monotony up until Christmas. That's when it was coined as okay, the NBA season has really began, and you think of it as 82 games during the season. It's a long drought. So the NBA brought this in at the beginning to keep the players engaged, to keep the fans engaged, and I think it's still going to take some time for this to take off for your the American fan base because trying to understand how it kind of works is a little bit confusing if you're not used to these types of competitions. This year, it's six groups, five teams within the six groups. The top team in each group makes it off to the quarterfinals, and then one wild card team from the East and West with the best record gets to advance as well. So then we make it through with eight teams. And the good part about it as well, they take the point differential as well. So, for example, watching Lakers versus Memphis, where the Lakers had that game wrapped up in the final, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Usually that's when you'll see the stars come out of the game and you'll see the bench guys get the mop up minutes. But they played Luka, Austin Reeves, those guys all the way to the buzzer. So that's great from that circumstance is that you see these guys continue to play the whole 48 minutes. And so, yeah, it's going to take a while for it to really, really take off. But I think it's great. Like, it adds something different. If you're not motivated by a trophy, if you're not motivated by money, then, why are you playing, besides the love? So Austin Reeves actually mentioned it in his post-game presser that the money was motivating. Obviously, the winner gets $500K. And for the stars, $500K, they make that in 2 games. It's more so what he mentioned was the coaching staff, the two-way players, the guys on rookie contracts. Like $500,000 is a lot of money for those guys. So you even heard it in year one with LeBron talking about, winning it for those guys that are on lesser contracts. So there's a motivating factor there, and it's great for the NBA. Obviously, it'll take years and years for it to really, really take off and for, the American fan base to get behind it. But I'm all for it.
Yeah, it feels very British in the way that you sort of say that in terms of, the BBL trophy as it historically was. I guess it would be the SLB trophy now. You, of course, involved in that back in the day as well and won a couple of them. So it's definitely been a motivation for you. It's fair to say, Drew, but it also feels quite, British football in some senses too. That like it's, in the NBA, what is quite interesting, and I guess it's the same in the NFL and a lot of American sports, is that it's just that one holy grail at the end of the season, and anybody else is a loser really. Whereas across football, there's so many trophies that you can win across all leagues in Europe. Really, it's probably only similar to that in the MLS, where it's just the MLS that you can win. I think they have brought in an MLS Cup now, so there is like another differentiation to that. But in England, there's the Champions League you can win. There's the Premier League. There's a few sort of domestic cups you can win along the way too. So it's good that there's a couple of teams there that can feel like they achieve some success over the course of the season, and that not just first is the best and second is the worst, and everyone below that is falling even further. So yeah, the NBA Cup is back, for better or for worse, really. Hopefully it is for the better.
I will say this to your point that is the biggest purpose in my eyes, because realistically, if we talk about the NBA title, how many legitimate teams have a chance to win? 8, maybe 8 to 10. We'll stretch it out and say 10, right? So the NBA Cup allows teams that don't necessarily have a real chance at winning an NBA title, because it's a difficult journey, right? It's 82 games. You got to make the playoffs. Then you got to go through 4 rounds, game 7s. Like, the best team is usually going to rise to the top. Whereas the NBA Cup, timing, right? You got to have good health. You got to be playing great basketball right out the gate. So it gives some of those teams that don't have a shot at winning the championship to having an opportunity. So, for example, a team like Atlanta, who made it to the Final Four last year, Houston, a team that was young, not necessarily ready for a title, but teams like that, to give them also, that experience. I'm a firm believer OKC won that game 7 against Indiana Pacers in the NBA playoffs because they had that experience from the NBA Cup against Milwaukee last year, right? You know what it feels like to play in a game that's high stakes. So, yeah, it gives these younger teams a chance to get real playoff environment experience, and then it gives those teams that don't have a chance to win a trophy an opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as I say, the NBA Cup is back, or for better or for worse. Me and Drew are enjoying it so far. If you're listening and have any other thoughts, if you're not necessarily enjoying it, if you don't like the look and feel or any of these kind of things that me and Drew have discussed, then do let us know. Text in and let us know your thoughts. Yeah, NBA Cup is back. I'm continuing the comeback theme, Drew, because unfortunately, Ja Morant is back as well. Ja Morant's NBA career is starting to feel like that Simpsons meme where they change the number of days without incident to zero all too regularly. The latest discretion for Ja, for those who haven't seen it, is a one-game suspension for conduct seen as detrimental to the team after he criticised the coaching staff in his locker room interview. Drew, the talent for Ja Morant is clearly there. You know, I sort of made a bit of a hype video for the start of the season for the NBA and looked at the top 10 players of last year, and Ja Morant was back to back at 5 and 6 in those plays in the same game against the Brooklyn Nets, because he is a player with so much talent, a player who can be so exciting. He's a live wire. He's got the hops. He's got, you know, shiftiness in tight spaces as well. So the talent is clearly there. But for me, it's the mental side of the game that is completely letting Ja Morant down. And it's hard because, like, I almost want to think of a way where I can give him the benefit of the doubt and be like, is this a little bit of a hard luck story in here somewhere, or is this just a guy who, like, isn't serious enough to make it as a star in the NBA? And I don't know where you stand on this, Drew, but I'm starting to, you know, really worry about the direction now of Ja Morant's NBA career.
Yeah, it's fair. It's absolutely fair. You know, you look at his numbers. I'm pulling up his box score from Friday night because I covered that game on Amazon, and he was absolutely awful. No aggression attacking the rim. The Lakers did a great job at switching, so that way they switched. They had flat switches, which means that they keep their chest in front so they don't give him any angles to get downhill. They kept him from the rim, and his shooting from outside, he was 3 for 14. He was 0 for 6 from downtown, which is now he's 5 for 31 from the three-point line this season. His shot is not falling, and you could tell it kind of zapped his confidence a little bit. He comes back in the second half and was completely unengaged, like not even thinking about attacking the rim. You know, defensively, he was lazy getting back in transition. So obviously it's coming out now that there was some words exchanged. Maybe there was something said between the coach at halftime. We knew there was something said in the post game, but you know, I think he's been a little bit frustrated with his minutes, but he has the team high in minutes this season for Memphis. You know, his shooting, that's on him. And I've actually pulled up a tweet that I saw from Kevin O'Connor the other day about his at rim frequency, right? So we all know that Ja Morant is an athletic freak, the way he attacks the rim with aggression. Since 2020, you know, he was attacking the rim at 49%. And every season that number has dropped to this year, he's attacking the rim 28% of the time. Now, if you're not attacking the rim and you're not making your outside shot, you know, that devalues you with his type of skill set. So he is a player that, you know, I could see really digressing, kind of going down the Russell Westbrook mode of once you lose that athleticism. And also look at the injuries that Morant has had over the years as well, like a bunch of ankles, you know, that kind of robs your elusiveness. It kind of second guesses you mentally and how hard you want to attack the rim. And so if he doesn't begin to find a jump shot, you can easily see him fade out very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's going to be maybe people who listen to that and find the Russell Westbrook comparison quite jarring, just on the basis that one thing I would say about Russell Westbrook is that real, like, elite mentality. Like, whatever you think about Russell Westbrook, and trust me, I've lived every beat of the Russell Westbrook experience when he was on the Clippers, and at times it was frustrating because he's trying to take over games and take tough shots in games. You know, when he's not the superstar on that team, like Kawhi Leonard could be on the court. I remember one moment in particular where Russell Westbrook took this, like, terrible mid-range fading away three when Kawhi Leonard was across the court at the three-point line open. Nick Batum, who was like a 40% three-point shooter, was behind him and open as well, and Russ decided to take this fade in mid-range and missed, and that was the buzzer beater opportunity for the Clippers. So, you know, Russ could be frustrating, but you could never doubt that mentality with Russ, whereas it feels like Ja Morant, he's losing that sort of element of leadership that maybe he once had with this Memphis Grizzlies team. And, you know, it wasn't out of the realms of sort of imagination, Drew, to think that once upon a time Ja Morant could have been considered as a future face of the league. Like, that was how highly he was regarded. The highlight plays were was so exciting as well. Those first few seasons in the league, like the dunks packages from Ja Morant and some of the, even the nearly posters as much as like the actual posters that he managed to achieve in those first few seasons were unbelievable. Like things you've never seen in the NBA before, especially from a guy of his stature. So, you talk about that face of the league and it needing to be an American. It seems like he has well and truly thrown that away now, and it's been replaced by, as I mentioned before, questions about his career and whether that could just flame out, and then will this era of Memphis Grizzlies basketball flame out with him? It's a real mess over there, and I don't envy that coaching staff now in terms of what they've inherited from Taylor Jenkins. It was clear that Ja and Taylor were quite close, and even that wasn't enough to keep Ja grounded and on his path. So if I'm this current Memphis Grizzlies coaching staff, like I'm almost sat there thinking, like, what do you do now with Ja Morant? How do you solve a problem like Ja?
But I will say the difference in Russell Westbrook's offense is that Russell always played hard. Even when the athleticism fade, the shot never came around. He always played hard. That's why he's in year 18, I believe. Whereas Morant, what I saw on Friday night was unacceptable. Like the lack of effort is what really caught my eye. You're gonna miss shots. Some players just don't develop that shot, and that's okay. But for you not to go out there and play hard is a bad, bad sign.
Absolutely a bad sign. Well, as I say, for better or for worse, and it seems for better with the NBA Cup at least. It seems for worse with Ja Morant, unfortunately. But on the topic of comebacks, still sticking with that sort of comeback theme, Drew, and the comeback heroes of the NBA this season. The Lakers and Bulls are back. I'm asking, at least as a question, are the Lakers and Bulls back? I want to start with the Lakers here because both featured in our bold predictions last week. We're going to come on to talk a little bit more about those predictions and make our predictions for next week. But you covered the Lakers in your first game for Prime. Austin Reeves looked like the real deal in that game and has looked like the real deal for quite a lot of this season. Really looks like a bona fide secondary star behind Luka, and Luka always looks like Luka, and by that I mean, again, for better or for worse, really. Like the numbers are there, but so too are the health concerns. With that lack of front court depth and questions around LeBron, do you think the Lakers are serious contenders, or do you think Luka has sort of found his new Jalen Brunson in Austin Reeves, and is this starting to feel a little bit Dallas Mavericks again, where good regular season team, Luka's had to try too hard in the regular season, is beat up by the playoffs, and you can see them sort of falling out first or second round?
Yeah, that's a great question. Luka has been playing out of his mind. Before last night, he was averaging 45 points, 3 straight games of 40 or more points coming out the gate. Last night, came down to earth a little bit, but got his first triple double, 29 points. And, there's a new big three in town, with him and Austin Reeves and Jake LaRavia all in their 20s. I right now it looks like a good regular season team. I don't really see it translating to the playoffs just because they're so dependent on Luka and there's not a lot of ball movement. I want to see more sets where there's more player movement, whereas a lot is happening out of Luka's hands. A lot of ball screen action. I believe, Luka and Austin Reeves are 1 and 2 in points off of ball screens. We know that's the NBA, but I'm just thinking of what's the plan B that concerns me. The plan B is this, is if LeBron can come back and integrate himself, he's that type of talent that can uplift him. But right now I'm having a hard time to figure out where exactly does he fit in. Maybe they use him, there at the nail to get those post touches, for him to play from the mid post and they get, weak side movement and he can spray out the shooters just to take the ball out of Luka's hands a little bit to reserve some of his energy. But we'll see. We'll see how Austin Reeves adjusts. Austin Reeves has been great. In his first 5 games, he scored 171 points, 50 assists. Just to name a couple of guys that's played for the Lakers: Jerry West, Kobe Bryant, LeBron. He's outperformed them all in the first 5 games. So, pretty amazing. And then without Luka and without LeBron, he's actually averaging 40 points, 10 assists on 50, 40, 90 splits, which is incredible. So all of this sounds great, right? Jake LaRavia looks like he's come out of his shell. Since Minnesota, he's been able to step up. But the burning question is, how does this all fit when you add LeBron to the fold? Now, if they're able to marry those relationships, absolutely, the Lakers are a championship team. But we got to see. I'm actually excited about Ayton. Ayton is playing very well. He leads the league in assist points, which means the guy that's a screen points. So he's a screener, and Lakers always score off of that, which puts him at number one in the league. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there's still that burning question in how does LeBron fit in. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves right now. If you're a Laker fan, you got to be excited about everything. And my prediction almost came through. The Lakers, won 3 out of 4 games since we came on episode 1. They dropped the game right after, but they've been rolling, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, before we assess those predictions, I just want to talk about the Chicago Bulls as well. They were part of my prediction for last week, and before losing to the Knicks last night, they played Knicks in back-to-back games, and did lose the one last night, split that sort of season series so far. But they are absolutely flying, Drew. Like, I want to reel off some of the stats to you here because they're number one in assist ratio, top 5 in offensive rating, defensive rebound percentage, effective field goal percentage, true shooting percentage. They're top 10 in net rating, defensive rating, overall rebound percentage, and pace. And I was sort of looking at that and wondering, like, are these outlier numbers that we're seeing from the Bulls, or is this actually a good young team with a talismanic center and a more experienced center in Nikola Vucevic that can continue to surprise people? And let me hit you with one more stat, Drew, before you decide your answer to this too, because since last season, this goes into last season, but it sort of checks across into this season as well. The Bulls have a 20-6 record across their last 26 games. 20-6 is like genuine championship form. So anybody who's looking at the Bulls right now at 5-1 and thinks that is, just a flash in the pan, maybe needs to look back at a couple more games, because there's some continuity in this Bulls side. Josh Giddey is stepping up to be the leader in this team. They've still got Kobe White to come back in, which can work either way. But for me, Kobe White is the most talented player on this Bulls team. So what do you think, Drew? Do you think this is a team that can, be a real disruptor come playoff time, or do you think this is just, a bit of a perfect storm for now, but at some point that storm is going to leave some havoc behind?
Yeah, and I'll even, add to that. They're one of the league's best second half teams. Specifically there in the second quarter, in the third quarter, excuse me, they're averaging 35 points in the third quarter, and they have the best record in the league when trailing at halftime. So, not a great team out the gate, but they're a great second half team, so I'll give you that. But to answer your question, I'm selling. It's a fluke. If you look deeper into things, number one, their strength of schedule. They have the 27 out of 30 teams, the weakest schedule. But on top of that, though, they have their remaining schedule is 29 out of 30. So they got an easy path. And I mean, you take that with a grain of salt because everyone has to play everyone, and these are NBA teams. So I don't look too deeper in that, but they've had a soft schedule out the gate. But the number one stat to me, which allows me to say that your take and your Bulls are a fluke, is they are the 4th youngest team in the league. Their average age is 24 years, 351 days. And what do we know about the NBA? Except last year, right, with OKC. We got to put an asterisk on that. But historically, young teams do not win in the NBA. So I will just say they're off to a hot start. They're in a weaker East, so they do have a chance. But the future looks promising. Giddey, his shooting numbers have been incredible from downtown. He's really improved that shot. That's one of the reasons why he got traded from OKC, because he got exposed in the playoffs, could knock it down. He's knocking it down at a very high rate so far this season. You got to like a lot of the things that you're seeing from the Bulls. And this is the biggest thing, right? Because they've been they've been in the basement since MJ was there, since actually D Rose. They're competitive. And that's all you can ask for if you're a Bulls fan. They're competitive again. They got a great coach, a great young core of players. They got rid of, DeRozan and Levine, who I look at those two players and they're just not winners. They're stat guys. And so it seems like they're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely seems like they're moving in the right direction, and quite by accident as well. I think like that's not an ownership with Chicago that has been putting a lot of money into winning. You see it up and down the NBA now that there's a real sort of look like gulf in ownership, and I don't just necessarily mean that in terms of wealth. Of course, all NBA owners are ridiculously wealthy. You have to be to own an NBA team, but definitely in terms of ambition, like you see some of the teams at the top of the payroll, like my Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, they have real ambitious ownership groups, and the Bulls has not been that for a long time. It's not a team that's wanted to pay any sort of fees towards winning. They've never wanted to be in the luxury tax, and yet, as you mentioned, they've happened upon this really young team. And listen, I'm not saying that this is a Bulls team that can like come out of the East or whatever. But if you look at this Bulls team and like they could sneak like a little a fifth seed, for example, then the second round is maybe not out of the realms of possibility. You mentioned that the East is so open this season. If the Bulls can sustain this, if they can get Kobe White back and make him like still the star in that team, and everybody else can continue to follow along and continue on the path that they've been on, then who knows? Who knows? I'm not going to make any more bold predictions on the Bulls because Drew has sold the crossover the pond stock in the Chicago Bulls, which is Drew's prediction. As we go on, we're going to look at our bold predictions from last week coming into this week. Drew said the Lakers would go unbeaten and they let him down at the first hurdle, I'm afraid, and trust me, I let Drew know about it. They lost to the Portland Trail Blazers, to Thiago Splitters. Portland Trail Blazers, but as Drew mentioned, they've won their 3 games since, beating Miami in the most recent game last night. That was a Miami team without Norman Powell, who's been incredible for Miami this season, but it was also a Lakers team without DeAndre Ayton, and Drew's already spoke there of how important Ayton has been this season. My prediction from last week was that the Bulls would remain unbeaten, and they nearly got me there. They couldn't win that back-to-back against the New York Knicks. They were so close. Going 5-1 rather than 6-0. But I mentioned to you, Drew, that I could see them knocking off the Knicks in that first game. I could definitely see a 5-0 start, and I got that. So I'm keen to know, Drew, how are you feeling about the predictions from last week, and what's your prediction for this week?
I would say that we are both in the same boat. Both of our teams lost one game. I
Ah,
lost
come
mine early.
on.
You lost yours late. Like we're in the same boat. We're in the
I
same
lost.
boat.
I
So
lost by a buzzer beater. Your guys were getting blown out from the first quarter.
I would say I would give you a little handshake through the screen, and I will say those are two great bold predictions, and they nearly both came through. So. Yeah, I'm happy with that prediction that I made. The easy route would have been to say OKC goes undefeated, but that's why it's called a bold prediction. So, I'm happy with that. I will say there's no winners, there's no losers. We're both in the same boat. So we'll call it even. We're 0-0.
Go on then, give me your bold predictions for this week. Let's see if we can get more heat in this competition here between us.
Well, let's see. A bold prediction coming up. Let me just pull up a few things. Um, I will say this, and I need to make sure I look at this. I have been really high on the Utah Jazz out the gate. They've been playing really well. They've been playing some great basketball. Their starting five has been incredible. If you really look deeper, they've had a lot of blown leads, but they've gone 11, 12 deep, which makes me think that they just want to see how good they could be, but then they want to pull the reins back because obviously this is a team that want to be in the lottery and they want to get another high draft pick. But I've been encouraged by the things that I've been seeing. So this week, keep your eyes on the Utah Jazz. I think they will go 3-0. I believe they have 3 games. Let's just check really quick on the line. Let's see here.
Yeah, so it's the Celtics tonight. They've got the Pistons on Wednesday, the Timberwolves on Friday, and then they'll actually have the Timberwolves again, but that will be on the evening of which we next record. So yeah, three games coming up, tough ones, a couple of tough ones in there as well. Pistons look like they might be back in the fold. The Timberwolves are always a tough team to play. The Celtics playing out above their potential at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, these are 3 games on the road as well. So I will say this. The Utah Jazz will go 2-3 on the road in Boston, in Detroit, in Minnesota. They will lose at Detroit, but they'll pick up wins in Boston and Minnesota. Book it. Utah Jazz. Keep an eye on them. They're an up and coming team.
I like it. Drew's already picking and choosing which young teams he wants to get behind, guys. You've heard it here first. Drew's not hot on the Chicago Bulls, but he's hot on this young Utah Jazz team. But hey, I'm just one guy who wants to see the Chicago Bulls be a good basketball team again. So I'm gonna give my bold prediction. I've already been a homer in terms of my NBA Cup court selection. I'm gonna be a homer again with my bold prediction. The OKC Thunder are 7-0 at the time that me and Drew are sat here recording, 7-0. But sometimes, that O has just got to go. And look who the OKC Thunder have coming up just down the road there. It's my Los Angeles Clippers. And my Los Angeles Clippers gave OKC a couple of really close games last year. The only game that wasn't close in the season series was one where the Clippers were really, really hurt. But the Clippers have some answers to what OKC can offer. They still lost those games last season, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, we are the bogey team for OKC by any stretch of the imagination. But point of attack defense, guys who can knock down shots, star potential in Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, a good center in Ivica Zubac, and a good center rotation now because Brook Lopez has really arrived at the party for the Clippers too. So I'm going to say that Chris Paul's got some of that inside information that he can just help sprinkle a little bit behind the scenes here. He knows how Shea plays, he knows how Lou Dort plays, he knows how a couple of those guys who are really important to that OKC team play. I'm going to say that the Los Angeles Clippers snap the OKC Thunder's unbeaten streak so far. Drew, I'm keen to know if you think I'm just being a homer again, or whether you think there's any potential in this bold prediction from me.
Yeah, that's a great bold prediction, but I also like the fact that Kawhi Leonard, is he back? Is he not? Like he hit a game winner a couple of nights ago, and so this Clipper team, they're just really hard to gauge, right? Like the biggest concern with them is, the elephant in the room, and that's the age. These are a bunch of old guys. So, can they stay healthy? Can they last 82 games? Those are all burning questions in a West that's loaded. And when it comes to OKC, you're talking about a team that's coming off a championship that's just playing with a whole different level of swagger, confidence, and SGA again. Like he's not satisfied with the chip and with the MVP. He wants more. He wants to be one of the greatest players ever. So, that's a great bold prediction there on Tuesday night. Good luck with that. It ain't going to happen. OKC's just rolling at the moment. And they got the young legs. And so, the Clippers will be playing a back-to-back as well, both of the games at home. But, Miami with this new offense, they're going to have a hard time trying to keep up with them. That's going to zap their legs. And they're going to lose. My bold prediction is this. They will get blown out by 20 or more points on Tuesday.
Oof. It's tough crowd for my Clippers here in this call with Drew Lasker. Hey, listen, this is the oldest team in the NBA against one of the youngest teams in the NBA. It's a young team that has been proven winners, as Drew mentioned before. But I'm backing my Clippers to be like the dads in the backyard, just swatting away shots from the kids and being like, "You kids, get off my yard." This is where we play, the old heads play, and I'm backing my Clippers to grind out a close win. I'm not saying it's going to be a big win. Drew's predicting blowouts in the OKC Thunder's direction. I think the Clippers will win a close one because, as I say, that O has got to go at some point for the OKC Thunder. I just hope it's my Clippers that can do it. But Drew, we're going to round out with our understated story of the week. We don't usually do this last. It will follow last week's format more often than not with the bold predictions, but I wanted to bump bold predictions up this week because it was a nice segue from us to talk about the Lakers and the Bulls as they featured in our predictions last week. So, Drew, I'm interested to know your understated story of the week.
Actually, I'm going to give you the baton. I'm interested to hear yours first. I want to save
Okay,
mine for
okay.
last.
Okay, you want to push it back? I'm interested to know if there's any crossover between ours here. I'm going to say my understated story, and in some ways, by the way, they are completely not understated, but in some ways they are, is the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously not understated at the moment on the basis of the investigation surrounding Chauncey Billups and things like that, but Thiago Splitter's Portland Trailblazers find themselves 4-2 in a stacked
Yeah.
West, and from what looked like a team of just young guys who didn't have any sort of serious potential yet, and they're without Dame for a year, and all these things that you maybe thought could take the Portland Trailblazers over the edge, they seem to be absent of that, and yet they just seem to have come out the gates flying. And I'm worried that I'm going to seem like the guy who's buying all the stock on all these young teams who are coming hot out the gate. But Denny Avdia has looked like a really good leading option for the Portland Trailblazers this season. Drew Holiday. Turns out he's not completely finished. Turns out there's still life in the old dog in Drew Holiday yet, and he's looked very, very good. I watched the Portland Trailblazers against the Clippers in that game, and everybody who expected to come to the party came to the party. The Clippers ended up only just grinding out a much closer win than it should have been, really, because the Clippers had it clicking that night. But what was true within that game was that the Portland Trailblazers were able to keep up with the Clippers. That so many of those young guys who've been around there for a couple of years now on really unserious basketball teams, if we're honest with ourselves, are suddenly looking like quite serious basketball players. And as I say, led by Drew Holiday, I'm liking what they're putting together at the moment. They've had all that sort of off court turbulence with the Chauncey Billups stuff, and yet Thiago Splitter, the big man, the big Brazilian in the on the bench for the Portland Trailblazers, there has been pulling out some wins. So they are my understated story of the week. Go on then, Drew. I'm intrigued to hear yours and your thoughts on the Trailblazers too.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I actually like that. I like the way that Portland is playing. There's obviously, even through all the turbulence, there is a foundation that's set in Portland. They play great basketball. I love what they're doing defensively. They're picking guys up 94 feet like college style. And a couple of teams have already mentioned it. I know in Minnesota, Ant Edwards was really, gave them a lot of props in his post game presser when he played them and talked about how, you got to watch out for them. And I mean, they obviously beat the Lakers. I think they're 3-1 with Splitter so far. Splitter, he done a great job at Paris last year in the Euro League. So this is a guy that obviously can coach. He's a champion with the Spurs. So he brings that DNA along with the point guard as well with Drew Holiday. There's a lot to be excited about if you're a Portland fan. So that's a great take. I like that. Nice one. Mine is it's not understated because it's been talked about, but not to this level that I'm taking it. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about VJ Edgecombe and how he's come out the gate swinging. And if you look at the rookie ladder, somehow, some way, Cooper Flagg is still number one. VJ Edgecombe is number two. That is definitely a popularity bias pick. But I'm going to go on out on a limb and say this. With all the Cooper Flagg hype coming into this season, talking about the generational talent, he's the next guy up. VJ Edgecombe will win Rookie of the Year. You can book it right here. I mean, right now, he's leading the league in rookies in points and assists. 20 points a game, which is 5 more than the next guy, Cedric Coward off the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, that's 7 more points than Cooper Flagg so far this year. And he's doing it with assists as well. 5 assists a game, leading all rookies. Him and Maxey in the backcourt are just explosive. You can almost see a baton being handed to them by Embiid because I look at his body language on the bench when those guys are rolling, and he's engaged. Like, he's celebrating these guys' success. We'll see how much that factors in when Paul George is back, when Embiid is back playing regular minutes, but I don't think this is going anywhere. Also, McCain, like what happens with McCain, but I don't think this is going to change much with VJ Edgecombe. His points per game will go down, obviously. I say he finishes at like maybe 16 a game, but he is fearless, and, he's aggressive, he's explosive. Once the 3 ball comes to the party, he's going to be even that much better. But keep your eyes on him. He's going to be the Rookie of the Year this year and shock everyone.
I like it. Yeah, Cooper Flagg has struggled coming out the gate. Obviously, Jason Kidd has been playing him as a point guard in the absence of Kyrie Irving. It looks like that maybe a bad decision by Kidd, at least in the early stages of the season. I think he injured his shoulder in the OKC game on Monday as well. So it's been an interesting one, an interesting start for the Dallas Mavericks. Dylan Harper looked like he got hurt in the Spurs game last night. I really hope that's not too bad as well, because he's someone who could be up there. But Cedric Coward and VJ Edgecombe, like you say, Drew, are really propping up that rookie ladder at the moment. VJ in particular, we referenced him on last week's episode. I think he's really captured the the hearts and imaginations of NBA fans across the globe, because he's captured the imagination of us over here across the pond as well. So yeah, keep it going, VJ. We're enjoying seeing what that young revolution is doing in Philly, and hopefully when those old guys come back, they don't spoil the party. They're not like the parents coming back from this house party where everyone has to disperse and suddenly the police are
Get
arriving,
off
and
my
it starts
line.
yeah it starts to all look a bit less rosy in the garden there in Philly. But it's been a nice start to the season for them. But that does it for this episode of Crossover the Pond. Thank you so much for the support on these so far, particularly after the first episode. I got an email in the week. I've not actually told Drew this, so Drew's just finding this out live on air. But we got an email in the week to say that we are 47 in basketball podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening to this on Apple
Wow.
Podcasts, make sure you leave us a rating. Make sure you get us up those charts. We want to see ourselves up there. Me and Drew want to be up there with the JJ Redicks and the LeBron Jameses of the game, the Steve Nashes. We're gonna keep trying to climb here week in week out. But that's gonna do it for me on this week's episode. So Drew, lead us out.
Man, that's exciting. The first one out the gate. We appreciate everyone out there who stumbled across us. We did get some messages on Twitter as well, people that's engaged, and continue. Any questions that you have, hit Josh and I up on Twitter. We'll answer anything either there or we'll bring it to the podcast. We'd love to get the fans involved as we continue to evolve this pod. And yeah, there's a lot of NBA pods out there, but there's not many across the pond. So you're getting the NBA through the lens of two British citizens, and so we're just like you. So yeah, appreciate everyone out there. Make sure you go like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that great stuff. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and we will be here same time next week. Josh and I on the pod. Catch you guys next week.